And on today's video, we're taking a look at two of my favorite horror franchises, Evil Dead and Scream. So between these two franchises, I think they are almost perfect. Even the worst of the entries in these franchises are better than some that we get out of other franchise sequels. And with both of these franchises having sequels coming out this year between Scream 7 and Evil Dead Burn, I thought now would be a perfect time to match up this franchise and see who comes out on top as the perfect franchise overall. Now, I know what some of you might think, they're uneven. However, I will be taking into account Ash vs. Evil Dead TV series as part of the whole franchise so that it is even 6 versus 6. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. And we're going to go ahead and start off with the OG original, The Evil Dead. And obviously that is going to be S ranking. So this film is the very first horror film I ever saw when I was 5. And it's what kick-started everything for me in the horror community, horror love, you name it. This film, I think, is almost completely perfect. It has the OG practical effects. It introduces us to the legendary Bruce Campbell. And if you don't know anything about this franchise and you're starting completely blind, this film does something that I really love, and that's you don't know who is going to live. You don't know who Ash is. And from the film, you would think Ash is going to be one of the first ones to be killed off. I love this film's third act. I love how the everyday, ordinary guy who is a wimp has to fight and survive against an evil that he does not understand. It is very of its time, and I think it even holds up to this day. So, this kick-started everything for this franchise in the right way on such a shoestring budget that it is almost a completely perfect film. But, of course, the original Evil Dead is going to be an S ranking for me. And then we get to the first Scream film. And yeah, same thing. To me, this is a perfect film. So the first Scream, I will say, is my favorite slasher of all time. Very meta, very satire, but keeps it close to the chest to tell its own story. I love these types of films to where you have to guess who the killer is, and to my knowledge, we hadn't had one in many, many years. Probably, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably since the 80s, we didn't have a slasher film where you had to guess who the killer was. And that was the fun part of getting together with your friends, watching the trailer, watching the TV spots, and then guessing who you think the killer is. And this one has one of those lightning in the bottle casts between Matthew Lillard, Neve Campbell, Skeet Ulrich, Jamie Kennedy, just your main franchise people in this first film, and how it kickstarts the rest of the franchise, and we're still revisiting the first film even with the new one coming out. That's how important this first film is, not only to its franchise but to the entire slasher community franchise itself. So Scream will always be like my number one slasher. It's hard to think that anything could ever top this for me, but absolutely yes. The very first Scream is perfect to me. It is just a perfect film. Alright, then you get into our first sequel of any of these franchises, Evil Dead 2. I'm going to start sounding like a broken record here, but Evil Dead 2, to me, is a perfect sequel. It does what a sequel needs to do. You take what you had and you just expand it. Now, if you listen to Bruce Campbell, he likes to say that 1 and 2 are the same film, and I understand why he says that. But the sequel really introduces you to Ash that we have today. The chainsaw hand, the badass, one man against all the evil. This is where that really starts to kick in. And you have a great supporting cast around him in this, but it is very Ash heavy. He is your main character. But again, you go back to those classic practical effects. You start introducing this Three Stooges type thing with Ash, with the hand scene. You get those classic lines, give me back my hand, come get some, hey she bitch. Even the mirror scene where his doppelganger comes out and grabs him. Like, these are all classic scenes, and these are all in this film. So, to me, this does exactly what a sequel needs to do to such a classic film, and in turn, it makes it a classic sequel. So, Evil Dead 2 is absolutely perfect to me. I have seen part 2 probably more than any of the other ones in the franchise. That's not to say I haven't seen all of them numerous times, but part 2 is just one I can put on in any mood I'm in and have fun with it, no matter how many times I've seen it. Alright. I think I'm battling the cold. Alright, so we get into the first sequel of the Scream franchise, part 2. I know people aren't going to agree with me on this, but I'm putting this in A. Yes, this is the best sequel in the Scream franchise. Again, it does everything you need it to do. It takes what you know the first one and just amps it up. More bodies, more gore. But bringing back that Guess the Killer game, I love. And for how perfect, almost perfect, this film is, it is impressive to know that this only came out 8 or 9 months after the first Scream. So they wrote it, filmed it, promoted it, got it out there in less than a year, and it was a massive hit. And it don't feel rushed. Nothing about the story in the second one feels rushed. Everything just seemed to flow right. To me, I know this is going to be a hot debate. I think the opening of Scream 2 is better than the opening of Scream 1. Scream 1, I know, classic, Drew Barrymore, misdirection, you think she's a star and taking her out. That was brilliant. But part 2, and I know no one likes this woman right now, Jada Pinkett Smith. However, her opening in this, to me, is classic. She gives one of the best death scenes I've ever seen filmed on screen. Just the way she's crying on the stage, being stabbed multiple times, and the way she falls and you see her eyes go dead. Like, that is acting. That is commitment. And again, they did the whole misdirection thing with putting her on the poster, putting her in the main cast on the poster. So you go in and you're like, oh, well, I mean, if you watch the first one, you kind of know whoever's in the opening is going to die. But to me, yeah, that opening is way better. Where this movie falls short to me is you can tell watching it that things had to be changed due to script leaks. And one thing I have never agreed with in the Scream franchise is killing off Randy. And it's not just because I'm a Jamie Kennedy fan. I think Randy was a very important character to this franchise, and it was a disservice killing him off in midpoint of the second film. I've never been okay with that. I'm actually more okay that down the road they kill Dewey off than you killing Randy off. There seems to me that there would have been more to tell, more to gain in leaving his character alive, at least for 2 more movies. So I've never agreed with that aspect of it. Diving more into the Cotton Weary storyline that we were only told a little bit about in the first one, I absolutely enjoyed that. But it lands just at A. It's almost at S, but this is where it stays just because I don't agree with killing off Randy. I never have. Alright, so back to Evil Dead. We are getting into Army of Darkness. I'm sorry, I have to put that in B. Even though, as a whole, this is also a classic sequel now. Classic scenes, classic lines. You know, good Ash, bad Ash, I'm the one with the gun. Yes, there are great parts about this film. But why I put it here is cause again, we I understand that Sam Raimi is a huge Three Stooges fan, and it's okay to use elements of what you love in the projects you're doing. It's just this is where the Three Stooges type of comedy versus horror needs to be. However, here we just completely abandon all horror and we go complete slapstick comedy over and over. The closest thing of a horror element you have in Army of Darkness is the lighthouse scene. And even it turns comical with the miniature ashes running around. This him facing off against sword fighting skeletons. It's like we just gave this guy a chainsaw. We don't really want to see Ash with a sword. And it just never really worked for me across the board compared to the other two. The other two had something very special when it came to horror and comedy at times. This one, they were just like, screw it, let's just go all comedy. And I wish it would have been a little bit better. This is the one that got the big theatrical release. This is the one where I remember the poster hanging up in video stores, which is what intrigued me to want to watch the original. And sadly, I did enjoy this more as a kid, but that should tell you something. As an adult, I'll give it that it's Ash. I'll give you the pit scene in the beginning. I'll give you some elements of that final battle. This movie really shines when it's Ash versus Evil Ash. But other than that, a lot of it fell short for me. And I don't hate it by any means. It's just, compared to these, it just went too hard on the comedy. Alright, so we're getting into three, and this is the one that is always heaviest debated. And let's see. So yes, I will admit this is one of the lesser in the franchise. Again, Scream 3 suffered from script leaks and having to rewrite on the fly. But just like Army of Darkness, they leaned too much into the comedy. Yes, you had funny moments in Scream 2, but they were quick, they fit the story, they fit the character. In this one, it felt like they were pulling teeth at times. Like, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. If y'all have seen the channel, you know I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. But why did we have Jay and Silent Bob cameo in Scream 3? Why is every scene that Parker Posey in have to be funny? It's like we're stretching for that comedy anytime she was on screen, especially if it was Parker Posey and Gail Weathers in the same scene. It always had to be like a dick measuring contest between them. And I understand why to the story, but Parker Posey's character would always take it to a higher element that didn't make it funny anymore. And then, to me, her character actually got a little bit annoying. And you're dealing with all these actors, and all these actors have their egos, and every one of them has some sort of funny moment or funny dialogue, and most of the time it doesn't work. I wasn't a fan of that at all. Even Patrick Wilburn, who plays Parker Posey's security guard, his death scene was comical. Didn't need to be, but it was. You had a lot of, like, somehow the cast is able to escape at the last minute ex machinas in this one. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I know everyone hates this film because of Roman. I know that hands down, people have voted him the worst Ghostface there is. Roman wasn't what killed this movie for me. I don't mind the whole brother sister element. I mean, how long did we deal with that in Halloween? How long did we accept that that's how it was? I'm okay with the long lost brother. I'm okay with finding out, just like a trilogy should, finding out something from the first film that you didn't know. Roman was that you didn't know. And I'm okay with that. Roman didn't bother me as much as he bothered everybody else. Is he the best Ghostface? Man, that's up for debate. He is the only one that's ever been a singular killer. He does have the highest body count. Technically, on numbers, he is the most deadliest Ghostface. But I do understand why people don't like Roman, but Roman wasn't what killed Scream 3 for me to rank it as low as I just did. Alright, so we're getting into the next one for the Evil Dead franchise, and it is the Evil Dead remake, requel, whatever you want to call it. And it is perfect. If I was doing a top 10 best remakes of all time, this film would either place number 3 or number 4. There's a couple others I'll always admit are the greatest remakes of all time, but damn it if Evil Dead did not almost snag that number 1 position for me. Just like I say about sequels and what you should do with a sequel, a remake should literally be a reimagining, not a retread. You know, you have films out there like Psycho and Cabin Fever that are basically a shot by shot remake. No reason for it. It's just like, hey, we got new cameras. That's the only thing that is updated about those films. This one, however, said we're going to take the original formula from the first one, bunch of 20 somethings in a cabin in the woods, but we're going to give you a story as to why. The whole story of Mia and why they are in the cabin alone, isolated, is one of the most original, well thought out reasons why anyone should be in this situation. It is friends gathering together to help their drug addicted friend go cold turkey. Isolate it alone. We're going to get this out of your system and you're going to be okay. And you're already showing how much they love her and how much they're willing to do for her. Even her estranged brother coming back. But a remake should also give a nod to where it came from. And the nods that this film gives, from something as small as seeing Ash's car in the background that Mia is sitting on, something as big as her hand going missing or being ripped off and putting that in the chainsaw. The subtle things that you hear in the background, join us, stuff like that. This does it perfect. The gore is on another level. I will go on record and say that I think the Evil Dead remake is the goriest one of the entire franchise. It is just painfully gory, and I love it. And I highly recommend everyone go and find the unrated version of this because it gives you scenes that were cut, and most of those scenes should have been left in. It just amps up the story a little bit more. There are a couple of scenes that, yes, deserve to be cut. Didn't flow or fit right with it, but if you can find the unrated version of this one, I would suggest you watch it over the theatrical. It just adds elements to it, especially, with gore and the chainsaw scenes. It's amazing. And I cannot gush more about this. And it has my second favorite poster of the franchise. This is very anonymous. You don't know what's going on or what you're getting into, just the same as this poster. And I love everything about this remake. So if you had to only watch, I will say this, if you had to only watch one movie in the Evil Dead franchise, make it the remake. Because I guarantee once you watch that remake, you're going to want to watch the rest of them. It is just a phenomenal, perfect film to me. Alright, so the next one for the Scream franchise is Scream 4. And that's a B. There are many, many things I love about the fourth installment than I did the third one. I thought the story was a little bit better. I I like the new cast that you were bringing in. I didn't really enjoy the new cast that you brought in for Scream 3. I didn't really care about those characters. At least in Scream 4, I actually gave a shit. Like Kirby. Kirby is now a franchise OG and she's introduced in part 4. Now, the things I fault about this movie is what they do to Dewey. Dewey is probably the most stupid he has ever been. He acts like he's a sheriff that should be on the Andy Griffith show. He's he's useless. His character is the most useless in this installment for some reason. They make him an idiot. They make him a buffoon. And, when you find out in the fifth one he got fired, it's like, well, yeah, he sucked. How many people died on this watch? How many scenes did we see of him going up to his deputies? Hey, what happened? Oh, he got away from us. Oh, that's okay. You'll get him next time. Not the. No. Even your deputies suck. The police force in the fourth film is portrayed to be stupid, useless. And it all starts with Dewey. And that's the biggest thing I've always hated about that film. It's like by this point, Dewey should be grizzled as much as he is in part 5. As much as he's been through. The other issue I have with it is once you find out Jill is the killer, that third act of where she just picks Dewey up and body slams him against the wall is like, no, you are too weak and too tiny to pick that grown ass man up and do that. No. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the Dewey thing, but she beats him with a hospital pan. Are we just making his character a joke at this point? Aside from that, everything else about this film I did enjoy, where we are really starting to dive into what remakes, sequels, requels, all that mean for this franchise, from Stab to Scream to what's going on with our characters. I like the motivation they give to Jill as the Ghostface. That this isn't really about family, this isn't about something you've done or anyone's done. I'm just psychotic in the head and want to be Trump famous. That's the motivation to her ruthlessness, even going as far as to kill her own mother. I thought that was pretty ruthless. But everything else about the film, like I said, I gave more of a shit about the new characters you introduced and to their deaths. I cared more. There was a couple people that killed off that I actually wanted to survive. Kirby, we're left with the impression that she's dead, and we all just kind of accepted that. But part 4 is better than what most people think it is. I think it deserves to get more of a spotlight than it's had. It just seems this fourth one gets forgotten about, and the only reason people talk about the third one is because they don't like it. But the fourth one, even though it bombed, is a solid, good entry to this franchise. It really does push it to where you need it to be for part 5. Alright, so going into the next one for Evil Dead is Evil Dead Rise. I have to put that B. So, Evil Dead Rise had a brilliant marketing campaign with the whole cheese grater, talking about how it's the scariest and goriest of any Evil Dead film we've had. Unfortunately, the hype did not live up to what we were given. So, if you're going to put everything of your marketing to one gory scene involving a cheese grater, I expect that cheese grater to be going up and down that person's leg to where I see flesh coming out. Instead, we got a couple of scrapes, and that was it for that scene. Just bam, one and done. And it's like, that's not what we were led to believe. The gore in this film, yeah, it is. It is gory. There are great scenes, but it's not the goriest. Certainly not the scariest by any means. And when I first walked away from seeing this, I wasn't impressed. But I had to keep going back and rewatching it for it to keep growing on me, and me appreciate it and like it more. That should not happen for any film in Evil Dead. You shouldn't have to keep revisiting it to like it. You should just like it off the bat, especially for what came before. I mean, you were literally following the Evil Dead remake with this. Now, to what is great about it. I love the whole mommy element. Her portrayal as a possessed deadite is probably the best portrayal in any of the franchise. She is creepy. She is great in this role. The whole seeing through the door into the hallway, through the peephole, and her destruction down the hallway, I love that scene. It's your way of peeking through the cellar door from the other ones. I love that mixture of it. I didn't mind the vinyl records recording of how it's released. However, this has the worst looking Necronomicon. Like the worst looking, like with the teeth on the side for some reason. I mean, it looks like you fished it out of the sea, and it looked weird. I didn't enjoy that at all. Scenes that should have been more, like the tattoo gun scene, I wish they had gone further with it. The third act of this film, I highly enjoyed, where they all come together, all the Deadites form into their mother and their one big creature. But there are problems with that third act though. It felt forced, her saying come get some and all that, and she fires one shot and the shotgun knocks her back, and it's like, well, what was that build up for? But overall, like, this movie really had to grow on me. I had to see what I really appreciated about it. Even now, I can put it on and be happy with what's given to me. It's just the opening of this film turned out to be better than the rest of the film to me. I don't hate it. It's not my favorite. It's not bad. This is a solid sequel. But it's just one of those I found it had to grow on me. And I don't think Evil Dead should be like that. Probably sound like a broken record at times. Alright, so next for Scream is Scream 5. So this goes in A. Even though there are a couple problems I have with it, this goes in A because this did what I think it needed to do when it comes to legacy characters. A lot of people hate that Dewey was killed off. I hate the way Dewey was killed off, but I don't hate that he was killed off. I think this far into your franchise and you still have your OG main characters with you, someone needs to bite the dust. There needs to be some consequences. There need to be some real elements that happen to push the story. And Dewey's death definitely did push the story in this fifth one. I like the new core characters that you get. I like how brutal it chose to be with its Ghostface. Like broad daylight killings in the front yard. That that scene with Officer Hicks surprised me. Just right there, front lawn, broad daylight. I'm going to shank you like we're in prison. That caught me off guard. Explaining who killed Dewey really pisses me off. Like, that little girl couldn't have done that. She couldn't have gutted him up and down. She couldn't have survived. I mean, not survived, but she wouldn't have been able to breathe with her frame with a bulletproof vest being shot multiple times in the chest. She would be gasping for air. And the fact that, no, I'm just going to pretend like this don't hurt and get up and stab you in the last moment. I hate who killed him off. I don't mind that he died. But going more into this one takes kind of a back seat to the Stab franchise. I mean, it's talked about, and you have Richie or Mickey, I'm sorry, Mickey, who is the one who's acting like he doesn't know anything about the franchise, but does, and he turns out to be the killer because he's obsessed with it and he wants to make his own sequel, an own version of Stab. So from 4 to 5, you kind of abandon the family motivation and elements to it to give us people that are just psychotic for a psychotic's purpose. I mean, Jill just wanted fame. Mickey just wanted fame by creating a better Stab film. I I enjoyed that, even though you do get family elements with Melissa Barrera's character, Sam. Her being Billy Loomis's long lost daughter. That's fine. That's good. That's okay. And I like the elements of her where she's fearing turning into her father because she knows all the horrible things he did. So she's worried it's genetic and she's seeing him in the mirror. I like the third act of this film where we're back in the Woodsboro house. We're having another showdown. Sydney is the most grizzled, hardened woman that she has ever been. Straight up walking through the house, shooting every door before she even opens them. Not intimidated or scared of Ghostface in no point. Calling out everyone's bullshit. She is just the best version of her character in this film because she's been through enough. And you had to have Dewey die in order to bring her back. I mean, why in the world would she ever revisit Woodsboro to begin with? You had to have him die to get her back in the movie. Now, there, I'm not a huge fan of the Carpenter sisters storyline. I'm really not. I accept it. I think it's a cool thing to explore, but it's not been my favorite. This one I thought did it best, especially its opening. This is one of my favorite openings as well for the franchise because it's the first time we've had our opening kill survive, and she had to survive to fit the motivation and purpose of everything that comes down from these two killers. So I like that we think we killed off Gina Ortega, but we didn't. I like that part of it, that misdirection. But in that third act where she sees her father in the mirror and he looks down and guides her to the knife, it's no longer in her head. Billy Loomis is now a ghost. I there's no if she didn't know the knife was there, then he wouldn't have known the knife was there if he is just an illusion in her head. Now you're saying, oh, it's a presence guiding her. It's fucking Billy Loomis. How is he guiding anybody? How is he proud of his daughter? This is a weird thing we are introducing here. So, but overall, yes, I really enjoyed the fifth one. I think it was the fresh kick in the ass this franchise needed. So, I was impressed by what we got. All right, so last for Evil Dead as of now is Ash versus Evil Dead. And that is going to go in A. So this TV show got 3 seasons, 3 great seasons, and it did what it needed to do when it came to not only pushing the story for Ash, but that perfect balance between horror and comedy. We didn't go full comedy like Army of Darkness, but we had a perfect balance. I feel we did. Especially in that first season, getting Ash out of retirement, accidentally idiot Ash unleashes the evil again, and now he's joined by, I think, two of the best co-stars he's had in the entire franchise. They play well off each other. There's a lot of jokes between them, but there's a lot of good horror. That first season, those last 2 episodes where he has to go back to the cabin, that's pure horror. In season two, I think in season two is where he has to go back to the cabin again, and I can't remember the name of the demon he has to face off against, but those were pure horror. I think in three, when he gets locked up in the insane asylum and he's being controlled and he's hunting them down with a chainsaw, that was scary. That was what you needed in this franchise. You needed that perfect balance and the gore. Probably the goriest Evil Dead anything that Bruce Campbell Ash has ever been a part of. Buckets upon buckets of blood. I mean, there's even a scene where Ash's head goes up someone's anus and comes out their stomach. Like, it really pushed the envelope. I like the way they brought back some of their OG characters from the franchise to deal with Ash. I love that the town thinks he's some psychotic killer and they have this entire time until the evil breaks out and he has to protect them. There was just a lot about this series that was just great for Evil Dead nuts like me. Now, that being said, its last episode ended on a pretty big cliffhanger. A pretty big cliffhanger that didn't really make sense to me and still doesn't. So it's always prophesized that Ash is going to kill the evil. And we get that big battle. That big battle we were promised. And it's epic. And he kills it. And he wakes up in the future. And the evil's back. And it's like, well, okay, how's the evil back if he destroyed it and lived up to the prophecy? Oh, now we're in the future. Okay, this is where we're going to end it. Awesome. So we don't get to see what happens to him. We don't get to see what the future is like for him. And I know that was a plan for the 4th season. I know that. And it got canceled. It's not like they said we're ending it. It got canceled. But it was just a weird way to leave it to me. Just really weird. But not every show can stick the landing, especially if you don't know it's the end of your show. It's hard to stick that landing. That cliffhanger probably would have been better with one more season. But overall, Ash vs. Evil Dead, loved this series, had so much fun with it. I recommend everyone go see it. It's 3 seasons of greatness. Every episode is like 30 minutes. And there's not even like 22 episodes in the season. What is it, like 10 at the most? 12? It's easy to binge watch this in a day. And I suggest everyone do it. Alright, so we are at our final film, final installment of Scream until next month. And that is Scream 6. Yeah. This to me is on par with part 3. The only thing is, I will say, I enjoy Scream 3 way more than I do Scream 6. I don't hate either one of them. Neither one of them are bad. But Scream 6 just had a lot of problems. A lot of problems. It suffered from, number one, crime. Too many characters lived at the end. Even those that are clearly dead, did not make it, are still alive somehow, some way. I didn't enjoy that. Again, I'm not a fan of the Carpenter sisters storyline that much. And bringing back Loomis again, that she's seeing him over and over, got to be a wore out trope to me. The three killers that you have in this are probably the three most useless killers we've had in this franchise. It gives itself away through one piece of dialogue through uh, Maloney's character. I think he's the sheriff or something. He has one piece of dialogue that, to me, gave away that he was the killer. And their motivation is pretty much the same motivation that Mrs. Loomis had in Scream 2. We're just revisiting that again. We're making it a family affair. And neither one of these Ghostface are efficient killers. Neither one. They're weak, in my opinion, compared to the rest. And I'll say it, Roman is a way better Ghostface than any of these three put together. He just is. And but I really did enjoy bringing Kirby back. I enjoyed the suspicion around her character. I enjoyed everything that happened with Gale in this film. I mean, this is the only one in the series that doesn't have Sidney Prescott in it. But you have Gale, and you finally have Gale talking on the phone to Ghostface for the first time. Her being attacked and seeing how smart she can be in a fight like this. Her almost dying. Like, that scene kept you on the edge of your seat, I felt. But other things about this film, it just did not land. I don't hate it. I think it's a solid sequel compared to other sequels and other franchises that are out there. But if we just talk about this one franchise, this film aggravates me the most. I don't like the third act. I don't like who the Ghostface are. I'm not a fan of the Carpenter storyline. Just, oh, and too many people live. Too many people live. This should have had a massive body count. Massive, and it doesn't. Now, I will say the opening to it, I like the opening to this, where it flips it on its head, and when he pulls his mask off in the beginning of it, and you see him reveal his face, it's like, is that what we're doing? Are we Kojaking it here, where we're going to see who the killer is, and, or I'm sorry, Columbo, where we're going to see who the killer is, and then none of our cast know, but we know. Like, I think that would have been a cool element and something new to try. And I really thought that's what they were going for. But no, it was still Guess the Killer. Only this movie made it way too easy, at least for me, to guess who it was and what the motivation was. I don't hate it, I just don't love it. Okay, so now that all that's out of the way, it's time to see who won this battle. Which franchise is best? And looking at it, the two worst are at the bottom. They're all from Scream. You got 2 and A, but up here, I mean, I think it's solid to say that Evil Dead in this fight is the best franchise. Just overall, the way, I didn't go into this knowing where I was going to put anything but these. The rest of these I just went by feeling. These I knew would be up there. But comparing to where everything else laid, obviously Evil Dead is the better franchise. The first one, a classic. Its sequel, a classic. Army of Darkness is a classic, no matter the problems it has with it. Evil Dead Remake, one of the best remakes of all time. Evil Dead Rise, even though I have my complaints, it's going to stand the test of time, and it's going to be held the same way as every other one in this franchise as a classic upon itself, especially for her portrayal as the mother. So, yes, it looks like Evil Dead is the best franchise. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this list. I hope you like everything of where I put things. I know there's going to be people that disagree with me, and that's fine. We all have our own opinions. You know, your list may look completely different than mine, but whatever your list is, let me know in the comments. Let me know where you rank these. If you can, show me your own tier list of where these are going to land for you. But until then, just like everyone else, I'm highly anticipating both sequels in this franchise this year. Scream 7, Evil Dead Burn, and once I see those, we'll see where those would rank on here as well. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe. We are almost at 1,000 subs, and we're really trying to get there, and all support is welcome. Plus, if you enjoy content like this, you are at the right channel, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But until next time, I'll see you guys around.